Welcome to our test automation tutorial. We are going to talk about some theoretical subjects, then we are going to build our project. Test automation is used for automating manual tests. In every publish, a developer may skip updating some parts which may cause a bug in normal working parts of our application. That's why we run regression tests after each feature publish, in order to check that other parts still work well. Software process has 6 steps and test step is an important one. The main goals of tests are checking whether the app works the way we want, checking if there are any bugs, and we check that other parts of the app works normally. We try to capture the bugs before it goes to production. Otherwise, these bugs will be spotted by real users and may cause important harm and may be humiliating for our reputation. This graphic shows a little testing cycle. Maybe a test engineer encounters every day. There are tasks for every feature or bug on DevOps systems like Azure DevOps or Jira. Developer completes a task or fixes a bug, and QA tests it. If the tests fail, QA sends this task to the developer with a test feedback. For example, user can log in with a non-existing email, and developer remakes the task and sends it to QA. If QA says OK, this feature will be published. And usually there are 2 environments in a project, a test environment and the production environment. Production environment is the website that everyone can see and visit. But the test website and database is private. It can be used by company employees internally or from a special link. So we run our tests in that test website, and if it is successful, it will be deployed to real website. That way, we can capture the bugs before anyone can see it. So, this is how we make the test automation. Firstly, we describe the testing steps, and in each step, we locate the element and take action. And if we need to wait for an uncertain amount of time, we can use wait methods. And in some steps, we may expect some results or elements. We assert them, and that's the key point of our test scenarios. For example, in first step, we click the register button. In second step, we enter our credentials. These are the main tools that we use in our test automation. We use locators such as ID, CSS selector, class, XPath, text, or relative locators in order to interact with the right element. If we want to press the green OK button, we have to be sure that the program shouldn't click another green button or OK button. And we use actions like click, type, check, select option, navigate to page, etc. And we use wait tools like wait till an element appears, wait till navigation completes, or wait for an exact time. I first use exact time in the first design, then use the other wait tools to improve performance. These are some experience notes for designing test automation. For example, if a new feature changes the order of form elements, for example, take the birth date to the end, your XPath or CSS selector won't work and your test will fail like there is a bug. If you have written your code like click OK, and your website becomes multi-language, and in French version it becomes d'accord, your test will fail. If your design template changes totally, you should check all your locators. And the last but not the least, waiting time may change in different situations. For example, in certain hours or high website traffic. So try to make it flexible. This is our model for organizing our test files. In page object model pattern, we create classes for each page which is called page object. And if there are complicated parts, like a sidebar, filter box, list, etc., we split them into page fragments. In page objects, we store our page elements and actions in fields and methods, but we don't make any assertions or tests. Concept.js is an open source test automation library and it supports JavaScript and TypeScript. It has a very easy syntax and parallel with Gherkin syntax. Their website has a well documentation. Lastly, Concept.js library has some good CLI commands to make our life easier. For example, you can generate the main folder, page objects, or page fragments very easily. So this is the official Concept.js website. You can reach many good documentation from here. For example, you can reach helper documentation for Playwright. And here are all the methods for iObject. You can Control F or find the method from the left sidebar. There is a good guide for also Playwright and other helpers, how to install, how to configure, how to use. And under API menu there are commands which are very useful and well explained. Under organizing tests menu there are very well other features of Concept.js. For example, page objects, page fragments, locators, and the other things. You should explore that website. Let's talk about our project. Firstly, we will read our business requirement document and then we will create our test cases. After that, we will install Concept.js and generate our project. Fourth step, we are going to create our test data. Then we will create our sign-up page object. In the sixth step, we will create our test suites and assertions. When everything is okay, we will run our tests and check that everything works fine. Finally, we will review what we have done. This is the main structure of our project. We will create page object classes and test data. In the test files, we are going to create our test suites and make assertions. In sign-up page object class, we will have fields for form inputs, submit button, error text, and validation text on our web page. We will also have two methods. In login page object class, we will have fields for form inputs, buttons, error text, validation text, and related class and other locators. Login page will have two methods either. Whenever you add a new page object or fragment, include it in the config file. That way, you can use it anywhere you want. This is a strong feature about Concept.js library. Debugging test files is a little bit different. You both work with code and the browser. Try pause method, which allows you to pause the code flow and type ifunctions. Secondly, check config and steps files. Configuration mistakes can cause errors. Check import and export statements, because sometimes code editor does not automatically add these and our app crashes. Using single quotes is an important issue, especially working with variables. Lastly, copy-paste the fields, copy-paste the methods if IntelliSense does not work. Before we start, you should install Node.js, a code editor, and Chromium. If these tools are not installed, please install them. You can watch other videos for that. Chromium will be installed with our commands in the next section, but if it doesn't install in the correct way, you should install it manually. So first, we are writing npm init.y. And our package.json has been created. Then we look at the guide from Concept.js website and write npx concept.js in it. And also install Playwright with the command above. That will take some time. It is gonna ask us some questions. We want to use TypeScript. Next one, hit enter. We will use Playwright. And hit enter to accept the default values. Show browser, yes. Chromium, enter. And it's installing for some time. We will test login. And hit enter. That's all. Our file is ready. Let's look at the main folders and files. Every Concept.js project has a config file. In that file, there are some settings about our project. For example, main testing URL, output means screenshot saving directory, show means show test browser or not, include object is a global object which facilitates dependency injection. iObject is included by default and you should include your page object or page fragment files in here. Steps file is an important file to extend iFunctions. You can describe your own custom iFunction here. An important point is that only in that file you don't use I, instead you use this to refer iObject. For example, you can describe standard login or logout functions here. Files with _tests extension will be tested when you run Concept.js. You can change this extension or folder from config file. Output folder is the folder for screenshots. For example, when a test fails or throws an error, it takes a last screenshot before crashing. You can check these screenshots from output folder, or you can change it from config file. Now we are going to organize our files. Firstly, let's create tests folder and drag our login test inside it. Then let's update the config file that all files will be tested under that tests folder. Let's update our main URL. You can pause and write. We are creating page folder for our page objects and data folder for our test data. Here are our business requirements. In real life, QA engineers and business analysts work closely, and all of the system is based on that business rules and requirements. We have two pages, sign up and login. Plus, please stop the video and read the requirements. As you see, there are many business rules. We don't need to automate every test case. We can choose the important and critical ones to automate. So in this tutorial we are going to automate the ones highlighted with yellow, but you can do the rest as a homework or practice. Here are our two test scenarios for login and sign up screens. Under these scenarios there are several test cases. Positive test case means that if a user does something right, an event should happen. For example, user shall log in with the correct username and password. Negative test case means that if a user does something wrong, he should be warned or stopped from moving forward. For example, he shall not log in with empty password or username. So in this tutorial we are going to test some negative cases, but you can test positive cases on your own website as homework. Please stop the video and read the requirements. Login page is like a gate and the security officer. Now we are going to try to look inside and check whether our security officer works well and detects us. Please stop the video and read the test cases. In a professional document, these cases are written with Gherkin style, but I have kept it simple and short. This is our main website for testing. Türkiye Mezunları is a website built for meeting all the Turkey alumni together. If you are a Turkey alumni, you should take a look at the website. Now we are going to use the login page. So let's look at our website we're gonna test. Here we have a message box whenever we open the website. So first we have to click that button. Let's right click and inspect. And here there's a cursor button and also elements should be selected. So this button doesn't have an ID and we're gonna click that. After that we're gonna fill that two fields and push that buttons. So our username, email hasn't got an ID, and yeah, password has an ID called PS, and the login button has also an ID, and register button has an ID. This has an ID. This doesn't have an ID, but we won't use them. So we may use expat here and ID in that two buttons and import forms. So now we are gonna describe a new function in this file, steps file. Our function will be a close model. So using function statement here, and we will use this instead of I. And M on page is a function for navigating, so we will use these ones from here. And after that I will wait for an element in order to that thing, and it has an ID here, as you see. Panel mid info model. I'm copying and pasted it, and then I will click that button. I will locate this from its text, so whatever writes here, I'm copying it. I'm gonna copy. From here, you don't need to write. I'm gonna right click, and yeah, now we have described a new function for our I model. I'm on page for navigation, wait for element, waiting for a specific element in order not to crash our app. So we can also give a specific time, how much time to wait. I will give 20 seconds. So for example, if the page loads in 5 seconds, 7 seconds or 19 seconds, my app won't crash. And don't forget to put a hash sign before each ID. Now we are going to add our first page object, and under that folder I am adding login.js. So firstly I'm gonna inject iObject to that file. So const destructuring I. There's an inject method, automatically a built-in method of concept.js. So I'm gonna create a class here as login page. Now first I'm gonna add fields, and then I will add methods, our actions as methods to that file. So our first field is username, and I'm just gonna write them and then I will want something from you. Login password, login button, error message. That's gonna be an object. So it's gonna have a class property. Now I'm gonna leave it empty, and a text. That's gonna be our text for which we're gonna later assert. So pause the video and try to copy and paste these fields from the web page. And now I'm gonna, if you have done, now you can check. And let's do that in here. So first I'm gonna copy the username's name attribute, copy it from here, and you can check it from the official documentation page. Use single quotes. Name attribute will be username or email address or whatever you use in your own website. So our password has an ID. Always use the hash sign, otherwise it won't work. Login button, it has an also ID, so just copy and paste. And also use the hash sign for all IDs. So our error message, I will locate it from the CSS attribute. As you have seen here, I have written a wrong password and try to, whenever I press that button, it's gonna show me that message box. So it has a Swell2 container class. Use some of unique classes. For example, this is Swell container, and Swell2 title goes like that under. This is the parent one, and this is our real content. So just copy it, use a dot in front of it. This is just vanilla CSS selector, the same mentality, and also use that class. And as text, just copy whatever you see here. Yeah, just copy and paste it. So our fields are ready. Now we're gonna describe two methods. First one is filling username and password with our login data. So I'm gonna name it as field login fields. It will take a user parameter. So I will use fill field fill field has two parameters. First one is the locator and second one is the value what you want to use as input. So I'm gonna use this username, then we're gonna send the parameters username. We're gonna create that data. So you can use shift out and down buttons to duplicate the row. So I'm gonna use this login password, and we're gonna use that object's password parameter. And now I'm gonna describe another method. Let's try login. And this will be a simple method. This click, I click this login button. So our methods are ready. Now let's make our class public, and we're gonna write module exports and export our login page class. And now we're going to add some test data for our test suites. Under data folder, I'm gonna add login data.js, and here we're gonna describe some objects. For example, let false user, login user. It's gonna an object which will have two properties, username and password. tpc.com. And that user doesn't exist. Just copy and paste it 2 times. And this one will be empty name login user, and this will be empty password login user. So name property of that user will be blank and password will be blank. So we are going to test our web page with that data. Now we will make them public, module exports, and it's gonna be object, false login user, login user, and if you press tab, it will autocomplete. And yeah, our data is now ready. So our data is ready and our page object is ready. Now we are ready to test our file. So let's firstly import the files that we need. Now firstly I'm gonna import login page. It is under, if you use that, pages and login. And I'm gonna also import our data from, just use it from here, under data folder, login data. Just you're gonna write the same name, but here I'm gonna distract the objects, so you can copy paste from here whatever you export. You're gonna import where you will use. And now, as you see, it says test something, but I will use fully wrong user or wrong user. You can write longer descriptions here, you can even write a paragraph, but I will keep it short. So we're gonna send a wrong user and expect our program to send an error message box. That's a scenario. But firstly, we have another hook here. It is before. before is used before that files, for example, a standard function, a standard step that we always use. As you have seen before, whenever we open our page, it has an information box and we click that button. So we're gonna describe it here. What are we going to do? We're gonna make a function here and destruct I here. So in here we're gonna basically use our close model function. So you can copy and paste because it hasn't got a IntelliSense sometimes, but Concept.js has IntelliSense support in TypeScript. And here what I'm going to do, I'm gonna make a new instance of my login page. So let page a new login page. So under that class, firstly I'm gonna page dot fill login fields. Just a second. If it doesn't use the IntelliSense, so just copy and paste it from here. And I'm gonna use that false login user as parameter. And then I will try login. And that will take some time, so I have a wait strategy here. It is I wait for element. What I'm gonna wait for is login page dot, just use it from here, that error message, but here I need to use a kind of locator, so it will be its class. And lastly, we are making assertions with C method. So what I expect to see is that login page error message text property. So you can copy paste it from here. Normally it uses the IntelliSense. I have done the steps here. First I will fill the login fields with false login users parameters. Then I will click the login button. I will wait for the message box and check if the message box text is true. So everything is ready. Let's run our first test. So we are ready to run our first test. Let's open the terminal and write npx Concept.js run. This will run all the tests in your tests folder, but now we have only one test, so it's gonna run our test. Let's click enter, and yeah, you can take that kind of error. It says we haven't installed Playwright, and so copy and paste this npm install save dev Playwright. So it's gonna install Playwright helper. You can just install that one before taking that error. After it is installed, we're gonna run again. So Playwright has been installed, and I'm gonna add a pause method before running my first test in order to debug, and with arrow buttons I'm gonna run that command again, and let's see what happens. So the error comes from that importing one dot instead of we will use two dots here. So I have saved and run the code again. Now it has opened our browser, clicked thing, and now it has paused in here. And this is an interactive shell which is very useful. You can use, for example, some commands from here. For example, now if I write this and click enter, it has clicked the OK button. So in order to exit from that interactive shell, you can use exit, and our test has passed. You can use that pause method, for example, in other steps in order to test your steps one by one. It's a very useful method. I am going to copy and paste this scenario 2 times. Second scenario will be empty username, and we will send empty name login user as an argument. Third scenario will be empty password, and we will send empty password login user as an argument. I am going to use pause functions in that scenarios. Let's run our tests. I have paused the app for 2 times in order to check whether it runs correctly. And all of our tests has passed. Let's analyze our second page, the sign up screen. There is a register button we have to click, and it has an ID. In sign up screen there are some inputs, mostly text inputs. Almost all have IDs. There are 4 combo boxes. All of them have IDs. A date field which has an ID. Almost all of them have IDs. Second password field doesn't have ID. Also, buttons have IDs. I am going to create my new page object with concept.js command. Write npx concept.js GPO. Name of the file, name of the folder, just hit enter. It is created. It tells us to include it in config file, so I copy this and paste there, under the include object. Now let's look at our new sign-up page. These codes are automatically generated. Now I will write the fields and you will find the locators from the web page. For error text, try signing in up with false values. For validation text, try empty values and different passwords. Results are a few seconds later, but pause and try it. Our results. All ID locators have a hash sign and password2 field is XPath as you see. How did I get the elements? I have directly clicked the register button and saw the error message. And then you will see the validation error messages under the input fields. Try two different passwords and see the validation error. Then copy that message. In order to get the XPath, find the element, right-click on it, copy XPath. Now I am going to add two methods here. First one is fill all, which will fill all the fields. So how will we add all these parameters to our method? Hold Alt and double-click on each file name. Then copy and paste here. Now we need to add a comma at the end of each line. Hold Alt and click to the end of each line. Or hold Alt and double-click on each parameter. And then press right arrow button and add a comma. This is a useful method for multi-selection. We don't need the last two parameters, so we can delete them. And now we are setting the parameters of our steps one by one. Watch and pause the video, then code yourself. Our second method is sendForm. It is a simple method. And don't forget to include it in the config file. Now we are going to create test data for our sign-up page. We will fill our forms with that data. Let's create a true user object. I am copying all the fields from the page object and changing their values. Pause and write the values. And let's export our data. Let's update the steps file. We are going to add a new method to iObject, because this will work before every test case. It is goToSignup function, which is basically navigates to signup page and waits. Wait is a method which waits for an exact amount of time. As we mentioned in the config file, all files under the defined folder and file name in our project under tests file and ending with _test.js will be run. So let's add our file under tests folder with name of signup_test.js. Copy some of the code from other test file. I call goToSignup method inside before hook. And inject the sign-up page in every scenario. Concept.js will handle it. We don't need to require it. I am importing and structuring sign-up data. Our scenario name is empty first name. Our algorithm is that we will fill all the fields, then clean one of them. Firstly, I expect to see the error message text, then I click OK button. Secondly, I expect to see the validation message with red color. And we will use the pause methods twice in order to see how it works. We have missed two things. First, change the feature name as signup. Second, add .fields after each this. For example, this.fields.name. Because all field names under the fields object. You can use Alt and click to add extra cursors. If you click to a wrong point, Alt click again to disappear that cursor. Now we will run only the signup test. We have a command for it. If we use grep flag and write features name, it will only run this test. So let's run our test and see what happens. It fills all the fields, then cleans the first name and pauses. Write exit to continue the test. So our test has passed our two assertions. We have three more test cases. Second test case is empty surname. So I will leave the surname input blank. Third test case is unchecked GDPR, so I will uncheck that checkbox. Last test case is different passwords, so I will change the second password. And I expect to see the password validation error text. I made a little mistake. I'm changing the fill field method to uncheck option. We use that method to uncheck the checked checkboxes. So we are ready to run all signup tests. Let's run them. Whenever it pauses, I write exit. As you can see, there is a longer validation text for GDPR checkbox, but it sees our part inside of it. So our test passes. We have some fixes. In wait for element method, we can give a maximum time to wait. for example 10 seconds. And let's comment disable all our pause methods, because we are going to run all of our test files. So let's run all of our tests. We write npx concept.js run, and it will run 7 tests from our 2 files. And all of them have passed. So in this tutorial, we have learned theoretical principles of test automation, then practically made a project. Our project consists of 2 page objects, 2 test files, 2 test data files, config and steps file. We have updated our config file, changed our test folder, main test URL, and included our command-generated page objects in include object. We imported the other page object the classic way. Then we analyzed our page and created page objects. We have created fields for locators and methods for our actions on the web page. We have created our test data for different situations. We have updated the steps file to extend iMethods, kind of global methods. Finally, we put it all together in our test file. We have made our assertions in these test files, then run the tests. We observed how it was working and read our test results report.